The modern attack surface is vast and permeable, extending from the data center to the cloud and device edge. Security teams are stretched thinner and thinner as they try to cover this ground. The result? More high-profile breaches hit the news every day. Don't let your organization be next. ExtraHop delivers security from the inside out, helping enterprise security teams detect threats up to 95% faster and cut staff time to resolve by 2/3 or more. Act with confidence. Learn more at extrahop.com/securityweekly. Signal Sciences secures the most important web applications, APIs, and microservices of the world's leading companies. Protecting over 7,500 applications and 150 billion production requests per week, Signal Sciences Next-Gen WAF and RASP help companies increase security and maintain site reliability without sacrificing velocity, all at the lowest total cost of ownership. Signal Sciences' patented technology protects any application against any attack, with integrations into any DevOps toolchain. Signal Sciences, demand more from your WAF. Learn more at signalsciences.com/PSW. Welcome back, everyone. If you're interested in quality over quantity and having meaningful conversations instead of just a badge scan, April 1st through the 3rd is the place to be at Disney's Contemporary Resort for InfoSec World 2019. We'll be there, Security Weekly. I'll be giving a presentation, lots of great talks at that conference. Our listeners receive a discount. If you use the registration code OS19-SecWeek, you get 15% off the main conference or a world pass. Alrighty, on to the product announcements and launches. Commvault enables any application in any cloud at scale with Snapshot-assisted backups. Their IntelliSnap snapshot technology has been tested and validated to work with Cisco HyperFlex hyperconverged systems to protect application workloads, virtual machines, and more without the need for third-party tools, giving customers a simple and flexible architecture that will, of course, meet your business needs now and in the future. Very sensational press release happened on this one.
I haven't heard the name Commvault in I don't know how long. I used to do work with them way back in the day, in the early part of my career when I was consulting, and I didn't even know they still existed. So I guess they do.
Yeah, and they talk about Cisco HyperFlex technology. I'm not. What is that? Is that a cloud? Is that Cisco? Do they have a cloud? Or is their technology used in other clouds? I'm not sure.
Maybe. I mean, if I'm a backup and recovery vendor, I have to support cloud environments. Mm-hmm. So I would expect the announcement to talk about how they can back up applications in Amazon or Azure or Google Cloud Platform, but instead they're talking about Cisco. So I don't know if it's Cisco gear that's being used by the cloud providers to do it, but I'm not quite sure. I mean, you have other solutions out there that are really focused on trying to do these backups and restores. We've talked about others on the show in the cloud environments, because that's an important part of the whole recovery domain of the cybersecurity framework. I don't know. These guys have primarily been an on-prem product for, I think, forever. And so, they're moving into the cloud. I'm just not sure the announcement was very clear on what clouds are they supporting and providing support for.
Mm-hmm. Trustwave has unveiled the new advanced secure email gateway. Their 8.2 version supports Azure Rights Management, which is, of course, an enterprise cloud-based protection service that employs encryption, identity, and authorization policies to help secure documents and email content. Kind of similar to what we talked about in the previous segment.
Yeah, I mean, you have these traditional vendors that have been on-premise for a long time, now supporting cloud-based environments. There are cloud-specific solutions out there, but all the on-prem guys have to figure out how to make themselves relevant. And, this is something they have to do, right? If they're going to continue to be relevant in a hybrid world, they're going to have to support these new environments and be able to protect them as well. I think we'll see a lot more of these types of announcements. The question that I think the enterprise audience will have to ask is, do they continue to leverage that technology with some of these add-ons? Is it better to go a different direction depending on where their architecture is going? I think that's the risk for some of these older guys in the space, is that it could be completely displaced by somebody brand new in the market.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. NopSec. Did we talk about this announcement from NopSec already?
I'm not aware of it. We've talked about NopSec in general as part of our threat and vulnerability management segment a few weeks back, but I don't know if we talked about this yet.
Yeah, they opened up the new year with this announcement that I've seen very nicely splashed across all of the security news. And they say the focus of the new release is to handle data sets from larger enterprises and offer user experience that allows you to understand the overall risk in managing vulnerabilities and remediation, simple and straightforward, which is, of course, the goal of all the vendors in this space. And it sounds like NopSec is increasing their capability to handle larger enterprises.
Yeah, and NopSec's a little interesting in this space also is that they have their VRM product, which is kind of the device vulnerabilities, but they've also built a specific application vulnerability component. I know some of the other threat and vulnerability management vendors are working on that, but NopSec is one of the ones that's already built some stuff and trying to integrate the two data sets. I'm hoping this transcends both their traditional device vulnerability and some of their application vulnerability. I see these additional data sets being really important for these threat vulnerability management vendors to continue to grow. As we see a lot more growth on the app side, that's where some of their longer term growth will be. If they're just focused on device vulnerability, I think their growth will be a little slower as that market potentially starts to slow down a little bit.
Auth0 is now available on the AWS Marketplace, making it more accessible to developers who need an extensible identity solution, which is interesting. I hadn't really positioned Auth0 at all. It sounds like their target market are developers to implement this kind of identity solution and integrate it with applications. Have you looked into Auth0, Matt?
I have not, but you got to be in the marketplace if you're going to be used by people that are developing directly in AWS. I mean, that's just how they consume stuff. So if that's their target audience, then this is the right move. And I think you'll see a lot of other solutions continue to be supported in the marketplace, but no, I haven't dug into Auth0 and what they do and how they do it yet.
So they say their platform supports custom domains, unlimited social identity providers, unlimited enterprise identity providers, some compliance, single sign-on, and other features. So likely in the same camp as Okta in the single sign-on space.
Yeah, again, it would be good to get a briefing, kind of really understand what they do and understand kind of where their value is. But yeah, it sounds kind of like an Okta.
And you know, we see this problem here at Security Weekly on a small scale, right? Anytime you stand up a new application, whether it's in the cloud or whether it's hosted locally or developed locally, how do you unify the login, right? And it sounds like they're tackling that problem. We have it on a small scale. You can imagine in a large enterprise that has this on a gigantic scale.
Yeah, and we haven't solved it very well because I have way too many logins.
Way too many logins, right? Yes, absolutely. This one was interesting. You know, as I'm actually in the process of doing some firewall upgrades and such, and looking at VPN solutions. And when we talk about VPN solutions, I think people have kind of mixed things. Largely, I think of the enterprise, the VPNs being replaced with secure gateways and other things that are way more advanced on kind of extend the VPN technology and overcome some of its shortcomings. Then you've got the VPNs that provide privacy for people, and that's important too. And all of these, if you've ever configured a VPN before and pulled your hair out, right? There's a lot of configuration. There's a lot of crypto keys. There's key management. There's a lot of things that come into play when you're configuring it at higher layers in the OSI model. What ConnectGuard, and I've seen other similar hardware security companies in the market as well, is they're putting this encryption technology right inside the hardware. So ConnectGuard has Ethernet encryption technology, line rate performance, right? Performance is one of those things we are concerned about. It's actually, we were just talking before, I ordered a new firewall with slightly more capabilities on the processor to handle VPN connections. But with this, they're doing it line rate, lowest latency, highest throughput, without the complexity or performance costs associated with other encryption technologies, right? And so they use cryptographic techniques, dynamic key exchange, hardware tamper protection, and basically doing it right in hardware, right on the Ethernet cards that you would put in your servers is how I understand this space. I think it's a pretty small addressable market that has those right set of problems, right? You need to encrypt. You really need to be fast. The financial industry, I think, is very big on this technology because they have to process so many transactions. They have to do it encrypted, and they can't introduce any latency, especially when you're talking about trading stocks or shares, right? So good inroads, I think, in the financial community, but I think it's really cool technology. Just, the nerd in me thinks it's cool, but
good.
Great.
Encryption was the worst domain on my CISSP exam, so
right. Yeah.
I have no expertise here.
Let's see. PulseSecure is launching a community edition to help developers build smarter applications for container and cloud platforms. They see this community edition integrates with common DevOps tools such as Kubernetes, Terraform, Puppet, and Chef, making it easy to start building secure and scalable applications from day one. Developers can use that community edition on a limited basis. It limits applications of 10 megabits a second. Up to 4 nodes can be clustered together for 40 megabits a second. So there are some limitations on this community version. But of course, this is a strategy that we've talked about, releasing a freer community or open source edition of your software to raise awareness and start to gain market share. We've talked about those challenges and bringing people over that are using the free version into the paid version. But this sounds also like a technology. It's interesting. Your DevOps tool chains have so many tools. Now you need another tool to help manage your tools, is what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, this one's a little interesting. PulseSecure spin out from Juniper on the security side, and took like the VPN technologies and stuff originally with them. And I know strategically they've been working through their internal architecture, moving it all containerized applications, and there was a lot of work that was going on there. I think what they've done now is taken some of the lessons learned they used internally to kind of revamp their architecture for their products and created a community edition of some of those learnings to maybe help others go through this process as well. Because look, you take a legacy architecture and you move it to containers. There's a lot of people going through this digital transformation right now. And so this may be something that helps people that are going through that process and maybe get some good tools and capabilities from somebody who's actively gone through it. So it's a little interesting, but where does this fit in the overall container ecosystem? I'm not quite sure yet.
Yeah. The next one in the web application or development space is Synopsys announcing an update to Coverity that I think they correctly title as extending the breadth, depth, and scalability of enterprise application security testing. Sounds like not many killer features that I noticed in here, although I might have missed something, but it sounds like just more signatures, more language support, and just expanded coverage. Did I get that right, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what's interesting is Synopsys has built out a really good application security portfolio over the years, Coverity, Black Duck, and a number of others. And so the question is, to me, it's more important about where the entire Synopsys application security portfolio is going versus one of the products. This is their static analysis tool that would compete with somebody like a Veracode, for example. But they've also done some stuff with the acquisition of Black Duck. They also got potentially some other interesting intellectual property that might enhance what's going on with this application as well. So yeah, it looks like a standard product announcement, but Synopsys as a whole is building a really interesting application security portfolio. This is just one of many pieces for organizations looking to do AppSec with a single vendor across the board, want to leverage what they have with Black Duck and other solutions. So we'll see what this does, but to me, it's just a standard announcement.
And let's see, rounding things out, a couple of stories. There was one on fraud prevention. I feel like we cover this sometimes, and I don't know. It's kind of a dotted line to security kind of thing. But there was one in there on fraud prevention, payment and fraud prevention. And then Zebby Labs launches a DevOps risk and compliance capability software. They claim to provide the, of course, single pane of glass for technical and business stakeholders to track the chain of custody across your CI and CD tool chains from code to production. I think this is kind of interesting. They integrate, you mentioned Black Duck. I think in this article they said they do support Black Duck and other different security controls and technologies that you have in your DevOps tool chain, and give you what sounds like a dashboard that gives you chain of custody and hopefully an inventory, which is really important today, which is what Black Duck is providing. But taking all those pieces, right, if you've got Synopsys, for example, and you've got Black Duck and you've got a static tool and you've got an automated testing process in there with Jenkins or something else automating it, right, giving you a dashboard that lets you see all of that data. I find I'm a big fan of these kind of reports. As we implement technology here at Security Weekly, as I take on more of a leadership role, I'm like, I want to see the executive dashboard and some of the things we're doing, right? How much time are we spending in a development standpoint fixing bugs, right? And how much do we have a handle on the inventory? How much of the open source software has vulnerabilities, and how fast are we remediating those? And it sounds like this can be a really good product to give not just management, but anyone who's trying to manage the software development process good insights as to what all of your tools are reporting on, and rolling that all up.
Yeah, the corollary to this is the NopSec story on the threat and vulnerability management side. We think about the early days of vulnerability detection. Somebody needed a way to combine data from various sources together to get that kind of higher level risk prioritization dashboard. This is almost the same thing on the DevOps side, on the AppSec side of the house, where now you have a bunch of tools being introduced into your CI/CD pipeline. Some of them security tools, looking at the binaries, looking at vulnerabilities in the libraries, doing static code analysis. How do you bring all that stuff together in a central place to help the developers resolve bugs and vulnerabilities in their code? Here you have it coming not from the traditional security side. I mean, Zebby Labs here has really been more on the DevOps side of the house, now integrating security tools into some of the other things that it already does. I think that's a really smart move, because if you can make it really easy for the developers to get access to this data, then you're going to have better code coming out the other end in production.
Absolutely. And I think this very much ties into security. I have not heard of Zebby Labs before, but they are based in Boston. They're Series B funded. They were founded in 2008. They got $121.5 million in funding. They're 100 to 250 employees. So right where you want to see a lot of the security vendors that we normally cover, they're right there. And I think that this is more and more becoming a security play, where security and DevOps are coming together and looking at these technologies together, and having each their independent set of requirements and looking for one solution to solve both, really.
Right. Yeah, and that's where I think they play. And they're definitely coming at it from the DevOps side, not the traditional security side, which gives them a little bit of an advantage with the developers.
Yep, absolutely. That was it for security product announcements and product launches. So awesome. Matt, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching this edition of Enterprise Security Weekly. See you next time.